And behold, the main star of the show today, the russet potato. Very fine specimen, starchy, fluffy, perfect mashed potatoes. But you already know how to make those. Let's make them into something new. Welcome everyone to the Empty Pantry. Today we're going to be exploring the very versatile root vegetable, the potato. Now, we've all made mashed potatoes, but do you know that this ingredient is extremely versatile? We'll be exploring potatoes as
tacos,
pizza, and a waffle.
Let's start by making some potato tacos. So in this recipe, the potatoes are replacing their traditional meat filling. Start with 4 russet potatoes. These are a medium-sized potato. I have cleaned them and peeled them, and now I'm going to dice them. The size you're looking for is between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch of dice. They don't have to be perfect, but fairly consistent is what we're looking for. Once we have those all diced up, we need to get them cooked. So we're going to start with a large frying pan. And to the pan, we'll add 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We want a nice coating on the potatoes, so be generous with your olive oil. Now it's time to add those potatoes. So add the potatoes to the hot oil. We're going to add all of them at one time. We want to make sure that the pan we're using allows for them to be a single layer across the pan so that they can all brown really nicely. Now, the key to this is going to be to season them well. We're not going to have a lot of seasoning. We have some salt and pepper. Do that to taste, a few generous sprinkles. But the next 2 ingredients are really key to adding that flavor so that you're not eating just bland potatoes in a taco. So let's add a heaping teaspoon of cumin. This adds a really nice flavor. To the cumin, we're also going to add a heaping teaspoon of chili powder. This is going to be just the right amount of heat for our tacos. Now that we have it all seasoned, we're just going to mix this around. We're going to continue to cook the potatoes over a medium-high heat until they're thoroughly cooked. They're going to be soft when you bite into it, and they're brown on all edges. That's what we're looking for. Now that they're all cooked, we're ready to make our tacos. Assemble your tacos like you normally would, replacing the meat with the potatoes. And there we have our potato tacos. Now let's work on that potato pizza. For this recipe, the potatoes are going to be in the crust. So we're going to start with 2 russet potatoes that have been peeled and diced. We're going to boil these so it doesn't have to be exact, and we don't want the bits too small because we don't want it to turn to mush. So chopping them about in quarters. Then we're going to add that to a pan of cold water that we will boil until those potatoes are really nice and soft. Move them from the boiling water and put them in a bowl to cool off. We're going to be making dough with these, so we don't want them to be too hot where we can't touch it. Once they're cooled off, we're going to mash them down. We want them in really fine bits. Really mash them. I'm just using a fork. You could use a potato masher. I find that the fork is easier when we only have a couple of potatoes to work with. Once those are nice and mashed, we're going to set those aside, and we're going to pull out some flour, 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. To that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. We're also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a little bit of garlic powder, about 1 teaspoon. And then we're just going to combine all those, get them thoroughly mixed before we put them in our bigger bowl. Now that we have it in our bigger bowl, we're also going to add 1 egg. This is going to act as a binder. I have slightly beat it before I put it in the bowl. I find that it mixes much better that way. We're going to start by mixing this with a spoon. We're looking to incorporate all of the ingredients. Once they start to come together, we want to form it into a ball. And I find this definitely is best using your hands. Once it's coming into that ball shape, go ahead and pull it out of the bowl. And then we're going to place it on a parchment-lined baking sheet. We'll start by using our hands to start to get it into the shape that we want. So pressing it down and then pushing together any cracks that you start to get. Once you have it down to about 1/2 inch thickness, maybe 1/4 of an inch, get a little small rolling pin out to get it nice and thin. As you roll it out, the edges are going to get a little uneven. Just use your fingers to reshape it into the form of a pizza dough. Now that it looks right, we're going to take half a cup of Parmesan cheese and just lightly sprinkle it over the top. Now it's ready to go into the oven. So we're going to bake this 400 degrees for 15 to 18 minutes. You're just looking for it to brown. You don't want it completely done because we're going to put it in the oven again. Now just top it with your favorite toppings. I used a traditional pizza sauce, some mozzarella, and then what I had in the fridge, which this week was a little bit of bacon that I crumbled up and then some red onions. It was actually a very delicious combination. Now, when I make pizza, I always like to top it off with a little bit of Italian seasoning at the end. I think it adds a little bit of color and definitely a little bit of flavor. Now, one more time back in the oven to get those ingredients cooked and the cheese melted. Bake for an additional 8 to 10 minutes, depending on the ingredients, toppings that you put on your pizza. Once the cheese is nice and melted and you're satisfied that those ingredients are done nice and hot, we're going to pull it out of the oven and let it rest for just a couple of minutes before we eat it. There we have our potato crust pizza. Now let's make some potato bacon waffles. We're going to start with 2 medium russet potatoes that we have peeled, and we need to get these grated. I'm going to use a food processor, but you can use a box grater as well, whatever is easier for you. I think the food processor is much easier, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, these are going to be kind of wet, so we want to let them drain. So put them in a strainer over a bowl and let them dry out, or you can also put them on a paper towel on a plate while you prepare the rest of the ingredients. Now, while those are sitting and we're adding the rest of the ingredients, go ahead and turn your waffle iron onto high. To the potatoes, we've added half a cup of bacon, a quarter cup of flour, and then I'm going to take 1 egg and I'm going to crack it in a separate bowl so I don't get any shells in my batter. And then to the egg, we're also going to add some milk. This is going to add some moisture, so a quarter cup of milk. And then we also need to get a little bit of cheese in there, of course, a quarter cup of cheddar cheese that is finely shredded, half a teaspoon of baking powder. This will get the waffles a little bit of a loft, and then a little bit of salt and pepper. And now we're just going to mix this up. This is all the things we're going to put in there. So we're just going to get this well combined. You're going to have to stir it pretty good because those potatoes are not super easy to stir. And as long as our waffle iron is nice and hot, we're ready to get it on the waffle iron. So we're going to give it a good coating of spray. We don't want this to stick to our waffle iron. So generously coat your waffle iron with some cooking spray. I'm using a butter flavored cooking spray to add just a little bit more flavor to the waffles. Now that that's sprayed, I'm going to add my batter. I'm using a pretty large waffle iron, so this is going to make 3 waffles, and I'm just going to kind of spread it around. It's not going to run like a normal batter would. It is stiff because of those potatoes, so you're going to have to spread it around with your spoon. And then we're going to close that waffle iron, and we're going to let these cook for about 8 to 10 minutes. You just want to make sure they're nice and golden brown and that they're cooked all the way through. And so once they're done, we're going to plate them. I topped them with some green onions, a little bit of extra cheese, and some bacon crumbles, and they were super, super yummy.
If you've enjoyed today's in-depth study of the potato, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I have lots more recipes to share with you. So until next time, happy cooking. Bye.